Action.
Hi, this is Kim from Yarns of Italy, and I'm going to demonstrate the long tail cast on. Some people call this a very wasteful method. It's a little bit testy because you have to estimate how much yarn you're going to need in your long tail to complete your cast on. So, the general rule of thumb that I use is that if I'm doing worsted weight on size 7 or 8 needles like these are 8s, that I would need about an inch for every stitch I needed to cast on. So let's say I was going to cast on 30 stitches. So it's about a yard, maybe a little less, which is about shoulder to shoulder, slightly stretched. And then I make the always necessary slip knot. Do it again. Slide it to a reasonable height so it's not super tight on the needles. And this time, instead of a simple cast on, you have the yarn and the needle over here in your right hand. And you're going to grab these 2 strands of yarn. Generally, you have the longer strand that's attached to the ball in the back and this shorter tail in the front. Now, put your fingers together, and you can see I'm going to grip these 2 strands with my pinky and my ring finger, and I'm going to have these two, this V here, top of the diamond, spread over my thumb and my index finger. I'm going to give myself a little looseness there, and I'm going to pull this needle down in my hand. This looks very awkward. It feels very awkward, and you totally get used to it. It's like riding a bicycle. Once you've done a couple of these long tail cast-ons, you always know how to do it. Now, I'm going to, leaving this on my right hand needle, and you only use 1 needle for this cast on, I'm going to go under the loop right at my thumb, and then I'm going to grab this top loop that's around my index finger, pull it through, and I'm going to release my thumb. Ta-da! I have a cast-on stitch, the long tail method. Now, all I have to do is slide a little more yarn in here, pull it back down into this V. I'm going to go up my thumb through that front loop. I'm going to wrap it around the index fingered yarn, pull it through, see how I'm slowly dropping my thumb, and then use my thumb to tension that knot. I don't want it to be super loose on the needles. Let me show you what a loose one would look like. I don't want it to be super loose like this, but I also don't want it to be tight, 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 which is a mistake that a lot of knitters make when they first start doing this method. So you just want it to kind of slide nice on the needles. Now, let's say you drop your yarn. Oh my goodness! You just do the same thing again. You put your 2 yarns through to split this open. Your 2 fingers through the yarn, I mean. You're going to grab the bottom of it with your pinky and your ring finger. You're going to give yourself enough looseness there. Pull it down. Go up your thumb through the first loop. Around the yarn from the outside with your index finger. Drop your thumb and pull it through.
Okay, what's the difference between the long tail and the short tail?
A different tension, and it gives you a different edge. You can see that the long tail leaves this really pretty edge on the bottom, which we'll see in a couple of rows. And it's also somewhat stretchy. It doesn't get too tight on you like some of the other cast-on methods can. It can give you a really even edge.
This looks like assisted in some way.
Assisted?
Yeah, just you have the 2 hands working together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it uses 1 needle, but it uses, both hands. And it is really awkward. I mean, I find that my fingers cramp over here, but I really like the edge that it gives. And a lot of patterns will tell you specifically, do a long tail cast on. In the patterns that I write, I always say whatever, method you prefer, do it loosely, do it tightly, whatever. But this gives you a nice even edge, and you can see that over time, I split it, so I'm going to set myself up again. Let's see how I did that a little bit slower. Push my fingers through, grip it down here, pull down, and go. And then, I split that, so I went back and fixed it. And then, as you can see, you can get quite fast at it.
We are normal velocity, normal speed.
Yeah, we're not speeding that up. That's just normal cast on. I'm getting a little short, so let's see if I got to 30 stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. See how even they are? 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30. I overshot it by 3. So what I do is I make sure that I've safely stopped this one with my finger. I just pull those stitches off. Ta-ding! And I'm ready to go. Now, this can be confusing. Long tail can leave you with either a long tail or you run out of stitches when you're at stitch 27 and you needed 30. And you have to go back a little bit further, 3 or 4 more inches or however many stitches you're short in inches, and you pull it back and make another slip knot and do it over from the beginning. It's not a big deal if you're doing 30 stitches. It's a really big deal if you're casting on a project with 435 stitches like I did recently. I ended up with 2 yards extra, and I was glad to sacrifice those 2 yards to not have to cast on another 435 stitches because I didn't have enough. So sometimes you can clip this. You want to leave it about 4 to 5 inches to weave in later, so that's not really a big deal. Now on this cast on method to knit your first row, you can't start this way unless you're going to knit it backwards. So you turn your needle into your left hand and you go ahead and knit just like normal, whatever that method is for you. And you have these nice even edges. Nice bumps at the cast on method, the cast on edge. It slides pretty easy, even though it's cotton. And we'll just knit this. I'm knitting pretty quickly because this isn't the video where I teach you to knit. This is the long tail cast on. And that is how you do it.
I just want you to finish it.
Before the cat attacks the yarn. You can see how nice and even that edge is on the reverse side. Isn't that pretty?